package. What I really mean to say is, ain't no off-season.
Hello YouTube, welcome to No Offseason Media, and today we got some Week 9 picks, and who would have thought it? We're midway through the NFL season. But let's get it started. We're going to talk about some betting lines and spread picks you already know. So let's get it started. We have the Denver Broncos playing against the Atlanta Falcons, and this is a very good matchup here. Drew Lock came off of a game-winning touchdown against the Chargers. Chargers has been collapsing a lot. The Falcons came off their second win against the Carolina Panthers on Thursday Night Football, so that's a good thing coming from that team. Both teams coming off good wins. The Broncos traveling to Atlanta from Denver, pretty far. Not necessarily a far trip because both are in the middle. Well, Denver's actually in the Midwest, and Atlanta's always in the South. But let's take a look into this matchup. Drew Lock, I think he's the fourth best quarterback in that division, and I think even with the law, even though they won against the Chargers, I think Justin Herbert is still better than Drew Lock. The Broncos defense has allowed Justin Herbert to score 30 points on them, and the Chargers, we know they're not good in one possession games, and we'll talk about that later in the video. But you have to take a look at Denver's defense, not so great, giving up a lot of points the last couple games. Now let's go on the Falcons. The Falcons, Matt Ryan, he always does better against the Carolina Panthers, especially in Carolina, which I find kind of weird, even though there's no home field advantage this season. But he has played well against Carolina on the road, except for at home. But the game, well, let's see. The line here says 3.5. That's something very interesting to take a part into. The Falcons should win this game. I think they should. I think they should cover outright because I believe that Matt Ryan can put a lot of points on that defense, the Denver defense, and I think Drew Lock. This is Drew Lock's game here. If you can't score points against this Atlanta defense, then it might be time to look for a new quarterback in Denver. But I'm going to take the Falcons minus 3.5, and the Falcons win 27-22. And now I'm going up to Buffalo, where the Seahawks are playing against the Buffalo Bills, a 6-1 team versus a 6-2 team. I call this the battle of the athletic QBs. And something very interesting to take a part into is that the Seattle Seahawks, dating back to last year, are undefeated in the Eastern time zone, which is actually something, very interesting to think about. They went to Miami this year. Last year they went to Philadelphia. They went to other handful of games in the Eastern time zone. They've been undefeated. And I think that this is a very bad spot for the Buffalo Bills. Ironically, Josh Allen has not been playing well in the last couple weeks. Struggled against the Jets, struggled against New England. But I love Russell Wilson, even though he lost to Arizona and then came back and beat San Francisco, which I called last week. And when it comes to Russell Wilson, I think he is a leading candidate for MVP. Some people want to give it to Brady. I want to give it to Russell Wilson. He's been doing a lot for that team, leads the league in passing touchdowns. Hasn't rushed for a rushing touchdown yet, but maybe we'll see one in this game. Buffalo's defense has been declining lately, so I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks minus 2.5, just because I believe that Russell Wilson can just do whatever he wants all over the Buffalo defense, and especially it's in the Eastern time zone. So I'm going to take the Seahawks to win 31-23. But let's go to Tennessee. Now, the Bears are playing against the Titans, and there's something very interesting to think about. After the 2 straight losses that Tennessee has suffered, are they kind of kicked out of the Super Bowl contender? And in my opinion, I think they are. And I think they're still going to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender. And a lot of people have when they went 5-0, when they beat Buffalo, they beat Minnesota. They also beat Jacksonville and a handful of teams. They thought they were going to the Super Bowl, and I said, hold on, let's put the brakes. It's Ryan Tannehill we got to talk about here. Just something interesting to take a look into. Now, here's another question I need to ask. What's going to happen with the Bears? Because let's say Nick Foles loses game. Will they eventually move off of him and go back to Mr. Trubisky? I've been hearing a lot of people thinking about that. Obviously, Matt Nagy right now at the moment is going to stick with Foles, but in Foles' every start, he has thrown an interception. And with the Bears' offense, They're not built to throw interceptions and throw turnovers, and the defense can only do so much. Even though they have a great defense with Khalil Mack, Roquan Smith, and Eddie Goldman, and Kyle Fuller, but you have to take a look into what this team is built on, and they have been struggling lately with running the ball and with David Montgomery because they don't have that receiving back that Nick Foles has always been accustomed to, and David Montgomery is not that guy. So just something to take I expect this game to be kind of close. Even though the line here says Tennessee minus 5.5, I'm actually going to take the Bears plus 5.5. I think the number is just way too much. I think the Tennessee Titans could bounce back, but I think the Bears defense will keep the game closer than it actually really need to be. But the Bears, they're a great defense overall, and the Tennessee Titans, they're about middle of the pack. So I'm going to take the Bears to cover the spread, but Tennessee wins 23-20. I think Nick Foles keeps the game a little bit more closer. It's just a numbers issue. It's a matter of stats where you have to take account in for. So just something very interesting to look about. We have a divisional matchup, which I don't even know who's going to be the quarterback for this team. We have the Detroit Lions and we have the Minnesota Vikings. I call this game Dalvin is cooking because he cooked the Packers defense with all the rushing he did all for them, the Lambeau leap, and whatever he had to do to secure the Vikings a win. Now, I didn't pick the Minnesota Vikings last week. Even though I knew Cooks was coming back, I just didn't trust Kirk Cousins. So let's take account in for that the Vikings didn't use Kirk Cousins that much. And I think what's wrong with Detroit? And Detroit is not very good against the run, and especially receiving backs and elusive backs. And Dalvin Cook is one of the elusive backs and can catch the ball from outside. So let's take account in for that. Detroit, we don't know what's up with Detroit because Matthew Stafford was just put on the injury reserve / COVID-19 list, and we don't even know who the quarterback is. I don't even know who the quarterback is. I thought it was going to be Jeff Driscoll, but he's gone. Obviously, he went to another team. So now I'm thinking, could it be David Blau? Now, David Blau played there last year and lost by 6 points. But it's just a really bad spot for the Lions. I think this is where Matt Patricia, they start losing a lot of games, and Matt Patricia eventually gets fired. I don't wish firing a Matt Patricia, but I'm just thinking about it, analytical-wise. And the Vikings are the better team at home, even though they lost a couple stinkers at home against Green Bay and Atlanta. But I think that they have Detroit and that not-so-good run defense, they'll be fine. So the Vikings are favored by 3.5. I told you earlier, I think Dalvin Cook will have a ball game against this team. Run the ball. Don't trust Detroit's defense whatsoever. Led Atlanta, then they came back against Atlanta, then coughed up 41 points against the Colts. Yeah, that defense is not very good, so I'm going to take Minnesota to win this game 30-19. Don't know who the quarterback of the Lions is. Maybe we do know by Sunday. Maybe it might be David Blau or Matt Stafford. Who knows? We'll see what happens there. We have the Baltimore Ravens playing against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, something very interesting about this game is the line, and the line is Ravens minus 2.5. Now, I'm kind of, undecided on this line. And, I've been doing extensive research, and I do like the Colts here. But the Ravens, I think everybody has caught up to Lamar Jackson. And you could say, oh, it could be the Madden curse. It could be. We don't know. I mean, Madden curse has always happened. Antonio Brown, Patrick Mahomes, but he eventually won the Super Bowl, so I don't think so. But let's think about this. The Colts have a very good offensive line, and the Ravens have a great defensive line. Now, let's think about this. Ravens should have won last week. They really should have, even though Lamar Jackson had 4 turnovers. Now, what does Pittsburgh and Indianapolis do well? They rush the passer. Now, it could be fraudulent how the way the Colts record is, because I think they're like 5-2. They have been playing really good defense with Darius Leonard, and he is the whole entire captain of that defense. So I think that the Ravens have a shot in this game, but I'm going to take the Colts plus 2.5 here. I think the Ravens could bounce back, but I just can't. I mean, the Colts' offensive line is so good, and I think they can run the ball all over the Ravens and also pass. Phillip Rivers is not necessarily a guy who has to throw it down the field. But I'm going to take the Colts plus 2.5, and I'm going to take the Colts to win this game. I'm going to take the Colts to win, let's say 24-20, something a little bit closer. Maybe the score could be a little bit bigger than that. But I think the Ravens, I think the league is catching up to Lamar. In my opinion, I believe that they are catching up to him. But let's go to Kansas City. And the Kansas City Chiefs are playing against the Carolina Panthers. And Christian McCaffrey is back. And that's a good thing for Carolina because even though they love Mike Davis, they be able to distribute the ball passing-wise and running the football with Christian McCaffrey. Or they have a two-headed monster if you think about it. So it's something interesting to take a look into. But the Chiefs are favored by 10.5. Let's go on the Chiefs. They beat the Jets handily. Well, you should have beaten the Jets handily. I picked the Chiefs last week to score at least 40 points on the Jets. They did, and they scored 35. It was 35-9. But the Chiefs' defense has gotten a little bit better. They still scare me against the run. They still do. And so, Christian McCaffrey is back. The Chiefs are not good against the run. Vegas is kind of daring you to take the Panthers plus 10.5. I think I will to a certain extent, but then I also kind of contradict what I have to say is that the Chiefs, the Panthers defense is not so great. And so that kind of scares me in terms of line placement. But I'm going to take the Panthers plus 10.5, and I think they eventually do cover that. And I'm going to take the Chiefs to win 35-27. So I'm a little more closer than 10.5. But I think Carolina eventually loses and drop down to 3. Was it going to be 3-6? Yeah, eventually. But let's go to a divisional matchup in the nation's capital. And let's go to Washington, where they play against the New York Giants, who's coming off a short week. And I think in the last game they played against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that was pass interference, and that should have been called. And I'm kind of ticked off that it wasn't really called because, think about it. That was pass interference because the DB's head was not turned around. And here's the video here to show you what I'm talking about. The DB's head was not turned around. I think that it should have been called pass interference, but then yet again, Daniel Jones threw the ball late. But I thought the rule of pass interference is if the cornerback or the defender is not looking back at the quarterback, then it's pass interference. So that's just what I thought. I thought Antoine Winfield Jr. committed pass interference, but I thought the refs just gave Tampa Bay the game. But Tampa Bay should have never been to that point. But we'll talk about Tampa later. But just a heartbreaker for the Giants, 1-7. And now they have Washington, who's coming off their bye week, who thinks that they can win a division. I think it's between them and Philadelphia. And I can count the Cowboys out now with Ben DiNucci, or they move on to Cooper Rush or whoever is going to start for the Cowboys. But I think the Washington Football Club has the best chance of surpassing the Eagles because, you can look at their schedule or you can look at Philadelphia. Don't trust Philadelphia. So it's just something interesting to account for. But the Giants have beaten the Washington the last couple of times in Washington. I think they beat them in 2018 there. They beat them in 2019 there. I think they swept them in 2019. So it's just something very interesting to take account in for. But I'm going to take Washington with new head coach Ron Rivera. And even though they're favored by 3.5, I still trust the defensive line of Washington with Chase Young, Ryan Kerrigan, and Deron Payne. And I'm going to take Washington to win by 8, 26-18. I think just the loss to the Monday Night Football really kind of stunned the Giants, even though the Giants were meant to lose that game. It's just how the way they lost that game. I think that was stuns them. But let's go to another divisional matchup because we're in the nation's capital. Let's go all the way down to Florida, go down to Duval County, and we're going to see the Houston Texans playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And in this game, Gardner Minshew is not starting. He is apparently injured, and that means Jake Luton is going to be starting, a 6th-round draft pick. Rookie. I don't know what to make of this, of Jacksonville. I think obviously they're properly taking, and the Texans, they're not a very good team right now. I don't know what to make of the Texans either, even though Bill O'Brien kind of ruined that whole entire franchise. But let's think about this. The Jacksonville Jaguars, will they move off of Doug Marrone after the following loss to this game? Now, they dropped to 1-7. 1-7. They dropped to 1-7. So, what's going to happen with Doug Marrone? And I think he potentially will not get fired. I don't think he will, because Jacksonville's schedule gets a little bit, I'd say a little bit better over the course of the season. Then they got Green Bay next week. Then they got Pittsburgh and Cleveland. All can be possibility losses. I think in one of those games, probably the Pittsburgh game, he probably might get fired. But in this game against Houston, he doesn't have his quarterback, so I don't know. But the Houston Texans are favored by 6.5. I think the Houston Texans will get past that. The only thing that scares me about this line is that Houston's run defense is not particularly well. And what does Jacksonville like to do? Run the ball with James Robinson. Something very hard to think about, but I'm going to take the Houston Texans to win outright by 11 and take them to win 27-16. And I just don't know. I never seen Jake Luton ever play, and it's very difficult to think about. So now we're going to go from Florida over here and go all the way to City of Angels to see actually a divisional matchup between the Las Vegas Raiders against the LA Chargers. Now, here's the deal. And you saw my last video with Rashad Haylock from KTLA 5. These Chargers have a worse record than they actually really are. And they lost 14 one-possession games dating back to 2019, the start of 2019. And people are starting to say, is Anthony Lynn on the hot seat after that loss to Denver? And if I have to rate it from a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably say it's like a 5 or like a 5.5. And I don't think he's going to get fired, but the Chargers have to play a little bit better. They have some tough opponents coming up. They have the Raiders, and then they have the Dolphins after that. And I think they have the Buffalo Bills coming up on later in the season. But just it's hard to think about this Chargers team because Justin Herbert has been playing really well. I mean, you heard my last video. He thought he got stunned by the way that Justin Herbert was playing. And even I am too. You know, I thought it was going to be Herbert. When I first thought of when the first draft, I thought it was going to be Burrow's going to be number 1, then Herbert 2, and then 2 or 3 because of the whole hip injury. And I think he could surpass Burrow, in my opinion. I think he could. But the Chargers, I don't know what to make of this team. Now, they host the Raiders. Raiders have matched up really well against the Chargers for the past couple of years. And this line says the Chargers are favored. I can't go there because the Raiders have been successful against the Chargers dating back to actually last year. And a couple times they just always have the Chargers number. It's when the Raider team is very bad when the Chargers actually beat the Raiders. But I think the Raiders could go into LA. I don't know why the Raiders are underdogs, but that's easy to take. I'm going to take the Raiders plus 1.5 there. I do like Derek Carr. The defense is played significantly better against Cleveland, and I did call out last week that Cleveland will regress because what did they do? Call out everybody from saying that we beat the Bengals, and I know me and Rashad got into a little heated argument about Baker Mayfield. Now I was trying to tell them that, hey, you don't dance and gloat when you beat a Cincinnati. Well, you have whatever you have on your schedule. With Cleveland is that even though Cleveland is a okay organization, we're talking about Cleveland because of Baker Mayfield, because he's a major topic of one of the young stars in the NFL. And so that's my reason why. But enough about Cleveland. Let's talk about the Raiders. And the Raiders haven't played significantly well. They held the Cleveland Browns to 6 points. Even though the game was very bad weather, Raiders pulled it out. Now, the Raiders are underdogs. I'm going to take the underdog Raiders. And I think the Raiders win by a field goal because the Chargers love to lose one-possession games. And I'm going to take the Raiders to win 26-23. And here's another thing. We're going to go from Los Angeles and go to Big D, which is Dallas, Fort Worth. And if you saw the schedule early in the season, you would have thought, oh, great, we had Big Ben against Dak Prescott, and this is a matchup of the game. And now it's whoever the Cowboys starting quarterback is going to be, and versus Big Ben Roethlisberger and the 7-0 Steelers. Who would have thought that? But I don't know what to make of the Cowboys. I think it's time. I think it's time to let Mike McCarthy go. And here's the one thing: Mike McCarthy has a losing record against the Steelers, especially against Mike Tomlin. The only win that Mike McCarthy got, you want to go wonder when Mike McCarthy got as a win as a head coach against Mike Tomlin? Super Bowl 45. There you go. Only beat him in the Super Bowl and they lost. They won by 6. The other couple times, they have lost to the Steelers all the time since then. So, I mean, something very interesting to take a look into. I think Mike McCarthy, this is a bad matchup for the Cowboys. Steelers defense has been great. Mika Fitzpatrick, Stephon Tuitt, T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, Bud Dupree, Terrell Edmonds. A lot of dudes on that defense. And I can't account for the offense either. Juju, Deontay Johnson, James Washington, James Conner, a handful of dudes. So I think this is a bad matchup for the Cowboys, even though the Cowboys are 10.5-point underdogs. I wouldn't be confident in betting this. I wouldn't be as a bettor, because what if, let's say, Pittsburgh's up by 20 and they rest their starters and Cowboys gets a late cover. But I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm just saying, as a sports bettor, in terms of numbers, I'll be scared from this game. I'm going to take the Cowboys to lose by 18, and Pittsburgh wins 30-12. Now we have another game. This is a battle of the 2018 Heisman finalists. It's Kyler Murray against Tua Tagovailoa. And in this game, Cardinals coming off a bye, that really helps, because the Miami Dolphins had the best game of the year against the Rams, shutting down the Rams and Jared Goff. And just something interesting to take a look into. But I think the Dolphins have played the best game of the year, and we had to see more from Tua. And Tua had 1 touchdown and 1 interception and a fumble there, and he had only 93 passing yards. But I think what happened was Brian Flores said, "Hey, our defense will win the game, not you." And I think that's what helped Tua. But I gotta see 2 more games of Tua, or probably even 3, to see how great he is. But the Cardinals, they had played significantly well, just came off a bye week after beating Seattle. And I think that momentum continues after their biggest win. And the Cardinals are favored by 4.5. It's really tempting me to take Arizona because I don't know what to make of Kyler. And I probably will. But I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals to win 24-17 by a touchdown. But I think Tua has a little bit better performance, but I think they're going to try to run the ball and not rely so much on Tua and use play-action passes. Sunday Night Football, we had the battle of legendary quarterbacks. And in this game, we have the Saints against the Bucs. And we have Tom Brady against Drew Brees. Now, here's a good question. Will the Bucs surpass the Saints in terms of winning the NFC South? And that's a good question. I think they will. But, I mean, it's a really high probability that they will. And I think they could, because, I mean, the acquisition of Antonio Brown, Mike Evans is getting back better. Chris Godwin, hearing some news that he might come back. I don't know. Just something very interesting to look about. The Saints are not the same team of the same Saints we saw previously. And that's something to take a look into. And that's kind of scary to think about, because Michael Thomas, he is coming back. But what's going to happen as far as distributing the ball to Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Alvin Kamara? Drew Brees has an apparent injury with his throwing shoulder. That's kind of scary a little bit for the Saints fans, Who Dat Nation. But Tampa Bay is favored by 4.5. It's urging me to take Tom Brady and the Bucs. And also, they're coming off a short week, but I think they overlooked the Giants last week, because, I mean, that game was really close than any of us expected it to be. So I'm very tempted to take the 4.5, and I'm going to take the 4.5 here. And I think the Saints, it's a very bad matchup for the Saints. Not good. They're not the same defense we saw earlier. And I think the Bucs win by 10 points, and the Bucs win 34-24. And I think the game is a lot more. It's a statement game. I think this game is going to be a statement game to say, hey, we're going to be the NFC South champions here. And it's a statement game. That's why it's on Sunday Night Football. I think it's a statement game. But let's go to Monday Night Football. Okay, let's get it over with. We have the Patriots against the Jets. And I think Sam Darnold's going to see a ghost. I'm sorry. I think he's going to see ghost. And I don't know what to make of this Patriots team anymore, this 2020 roster. Bill Belichick has been doing something kind of crazy that I expect him to be doing. Didn't trade Stephon Gilmore. Actually, nobody even did trades in the NFL. Except they got Isaiah Ford, great wide receiving core. I think they're gonna move off Cam. I think they are. I think that it eventually is gonna come down to what can we get in the draft, and I think they're gonna haul some picks, and I think they're gonna restructure this team because think of the opt-outs. Dante Hightower's out, Patrick Chung's out. I think they're restructuring. I don't think they're tanking now, but I think they're restructuring, doing the exact same thing what Miami did last year in terms of waiting. But they are playing the Jets, who is 0-8. I don't know why they haven't fired Adam Gase yet. But I keep asking people this question. What would you do if you're the Jets organization? Keep Darnold or get Trevor Lawrence? And in my case, I don't know why Jets fans are sick of Darnold. I don't know. They haven't built around him. But if I'm the Jets or GM, trade away Darnold just for the benefit of Darnold. That's what I would do. But the Patriots are favored by 7.5. It is the Jets. I was hoping for the Patriots to trade all their players away so they can get Trevor Lawrence or whoever they wanted to get. But they're not. Thank you, New England. But I'm going to take New England to win by 10 because I have to take the 7.5 here. And I'm going to take New England to win 26-16. And those are my spread picks. They're provided by ESPN. This is Amari Jackson from No Offseason Media. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow our social media accounts on Instagram and Twitter. I am officially signing off. This is from No Offseason Media. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.